What is your number one issue in this campaign running against John Cornyn? What's the number one issue you want Texans to know about?
Yeah, we had a healthcare crisis in Texas before we had the pandemic. We had nearly 1 out of every 5 of Texans didn't have access to healthcare insurance. And yet one of our senators, John Cornyn, is the Affordable Care Act repeals top salesman. Because we're on an employer provided model and we have record unemployment in Texas since the pandemic, now we have 1 out of every 3 people who are under 65 don't have access to healthcare insurance. So we have an economic crisis in Texas. We have a healthcare crisis that was here before the pandemic, that will be here after the pandemic, if we still have leadership in place that's insistent on ripping healthcare coverage away from Texans, to help out their corporate donors and their buddies in the insurance industry.
With Joe Biden doing so well in the polling in Texas, Donald Trump doing badly, that can have effects on the Senate race. There's another number that is a problem for Donald Trump in today's Quinnipiac poll of Texas. It says, do you approve or disapprove of the way Donald Trump is handling the reopening of schools? And in Texas, 52% disapprove of the way Donald Trump is talking about the reopening of schools. How big a factor do you expect Donald Trump to be in the Senate campaign?
I think it will be a factor, but maybe not for the reason you think. Texans tend to not be lemmings. We tend to not just want to follow people blindly. And that's what you see with somebody like John Cornyn. Even people that might agree with some of Donald Trump's policies don't like the way that John Cornyn has become just a lapdog for him. We like to see leadership. We like to see people stand up for their principles. And John Cornyn has largely just been kind of a spineless bootlicker for him and doesn't really stand up for us, whether it's healthcare or the economy or Social Security or unemployment insurance. We really need more leaders in D.C. that have Texas values like strength and independence and grit instead of the D.C. values that John Cornyn seems so intent on sharing with us.
Beto O'Rourke ran a very impressive campaign against Ted Cruz, came in second against Ted Cruz, who us outsiders would think would be less popular and easier to beat in Texas than John Cornyn.
Well, it's the same thing that I was just talking about. Cruz and Cornyn vote exactly the same way, mostly. And yet there's a perception that Ted Cruz stands up for what he believes in, at least. John Cornyn knows the Affordable Care Act helps Texans. He slipped up in an interview recently and said, well, luckily, Texans have the Affordable Care Act to fall back on. Well, then why does he insist on supporting the lawsuit that Texas has filed that's climbing up to the Supreme Court that would rip healthcare from millions of Texans in the middle of a pandemic when we already have millions of Texans without healthcare insurance? So I think that Texans have a very sensitive BS meter. We know when we're looking at a politician who's just saying whatever's convenient for them and whatever's good for them at the time. As soon as it stops being good for John Cornyn to follow along with his party leader's talking points that he gets handed every day, we'll start to see him change his tune. I think it'll be too late because Texans know who he is. Now, Ted Cruz had a 52% approval rating, and John Cornyn, depending on the poll, has anywhere from a 28 to a 32 to a 36. Most Texans don't know who he is or don't approve of what he's doing. And so, yeah, we have an opportunity. Now, they're not going to just vote for me because I'm not him. I have to earn those votes. I have to go out and show Texans that, my policies are more in line with their values and are that they have an opportunity to vote for a regular working Texan like they are, who has faced the same challenges as they have. But we raised $1 million in 7 days after winning the runoff. And so I'm confident we're going to raise the resources that we need to be able to talk to those undecided voters and get rid of a guy like John Cornyn who says crazy things like we're not sure if kids can even get COVID or, some of the other claims that he makes. We haven't seen him come out against the Russian bounties as a combat veteran. That's highly offensive to me. I'm just not seeing any leadership. I sure would love it if John Cornyn would make it hard for me to run against him, but it doesn't look like he's going to do that. So we'll take kicking his ass in November.